And before I get on to serious stuff like, are the banks really ripping us off on interest rates, like the government says? Hypocrisy alert. We've just had a week of global warming protests. Extremists are blocking the streets, police resources tied up, hundreds of arrests. The hypocrisy that has revealed. Now, hypocrisy from preachers of any kind tells me that these preachers are either frauds or fools. They're pushing stuff so unworkable that they can't even live by their own rules. And let me give you some examples. Now, first off, police bosses in Victoria. Now, they charged two visiting speakers protection money a year or two ago. They charged Britain's libertarian provocateur Milo Yiannopoulos $50,000, Canadian filmmaker Lauren Southern $68,000 to protect them from violent left-wing protesters trying to break up their speaking events. Well, double standards, hypocrisy. These same police will now not charge Extinction Rebellion for their event. They won't charge them for the hundreds of thousands of dollars that police spent to deal with their deliberate law-breaking. Now, the police say, oh, look, these protests weren't money-making events. And they're right there because they actually cost us money instead. But really, both times we see leftists disrupting citizens, going about their lawful business, but only their victims ever get charged. That sounds rigged. Second example, hypocrisy from the media left. Last week, Channel 10's Kerry-Anne Kennerley told an obvious joke about these Extinction Rebellion protesters gluing themselves to our streets.
No emergency services should help them. Nobody should do anything. Leave them there and you just put little witches' hats around them and or use them as a speed bump.
Media uproars, social media, flame out, Kerry-Anne Kennerley, terrible, terrible, terrible. But last weekend, Extinction Rebellion protesters held a nude march in Melbourne with slogans like, compost the rich, you know, use their dead bodies as fertiliser, which the Age newspaper reported without a word of criticism. Now, if Kerry-Anne Kennerley had said that, well, we already know what happens when she says things. But lastly, to two of Australia's noisiest global warming preachers, people who demand lots of sacrifices from you, but as it turns out, not so much from themselves. Independent MP Sally Stigall is the global warming crusader who beat Tony Abbott at the last election. And she today says she wants her seat of Warringah to be a mini California, you know, leading the way on curbing climate change, cutting emissions until it hurts. But Stigall herself, well, she's still not replaced her own very gassy Nissan Pathfinder, four-wheel drive. Not replaced it with an electric car. And she's still waiting for taxpayers to give her a handout to do that.
During the election campaign, you were asked if you drove an electric vehicle. You said at the time you didn't, but you were looking down the track and you definitely wanted to do that. Have you taken any steps towards that yet?
I, like every other Australian, have budget pressures, mortgage pressures. I don't just have a summer money ready to buy a new car whenever I'm ready. I would really welcome the government taking some steps to make EVs more affordable so that I could accelerate the process in which I could transform my car.
She wants to have her morals, but you must pay for them. The other hypocrite is Lenore Taylor, editor of The Guardian Australia, who's red hot on global warming. For instance, she writes, our ecosystems are being driven to collapse. We knew we had to do something almost 3 decades ago. And those who would thwart action also, again, resorting to that tired contention that we shouldn't do anything because we can't solve the problem on our own. Well, this same Lenore Taylor telling us that we must cut emissions no matter how small or seemingly insignificant has now put her long-time Canberra home on the market. And as Gerard Henderson notes on his Media Watchdog blog, its energy efficiency rating is an appalling 1.5 out of 6. I mean, isn't anyone there thinking of the environment? Think of the emissions needed to heat and cool this place. Now, on their own, each of the examples, small issues. But together, they help to illustrate what we face here, which is a global warming crusade that's aided by governments and led by preachers who cannot even live by their own credo. And why? Because it just hurts too much.